8 waiver ads for every position, including kicker and defense, who will help you get a win in Week 14 and in the fantasy football playoffs. This is no BS fantasy football. So let's get started with our quarterback ad of the week, Tyrod Taylor. 2 key reasons why you want to add and start this guy. Number 1, we see a solid floor. 14 points against the Ravens and 21 points against the Falcons, adding on a rushing touchdown. Now, that's a solid floor that some even elite quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, for example, has struggled to at least hit that 14 points every single week. The second thing is that this Week 14 matchup is special. Not only are the Dolphins weak against quarterbacks in general, they're specifically weak against rushing quarterbacks. I'm going to show you guys in the matchup tab in the Walter Picks app by selecting the Dolphins to show who they've played against this season. And we look at Daniel Jones, Drake May, Josh Allen, Justin Fields, amazing performances against this defense. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, again, top tier performances. While they've done good against Bryce Young, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, they did good against Tyler Shuck as well. This is the opportunity where the Dolphins are good against the passing quarterbacks, the pocket passers, and they struggle to contain the rushing quarterbacks. That's exactly what we get from Tyrod Taylor, who added a rushing touchdown against the Falcons this week, meaning he's a guy you can add off the waiver wire and plug him into your starting lineup for Week 14. And I'm also going to add his wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell. Last week, we talked about John Mechie being a waiver ad, and this week it's Adonai Mitchell, who had 8 catches on 12 targets for over 100 yards and a touchdown. He's highly available in pretty much every single league, but there is one caveat that you're not going to see on any other page, and that caveat is knowing the wide receiver cornerback matchups. We saw in Week 13, John Mechie, our favorite waiver ad from Week 13, had a matchup against A.J. Terrell of the Falcons. That was an extremely difficult matchup, one of the top 10 most difficult matchups of the week. That gave Mitchell some additional targets. I will mention that John Mechie will have an extremely easy matchup this week against Minkah Fitzpatrick of the Dolphins, constantly allowing some of the top fantasy points per route run. That can also benefit Mitchell this week as well, but I just want to note there that that's one reason why he did have some additional target share. If you like this detail, like looking at the rushing quarterback specifically for the Dolphins, looking at the wide receiver cornerback matchup for the entire Jets offense, make sure you are subscribed to this page. That's the kind of information that gives you an advantage over your casual league mates who simply are not doing this level of research. Our second wide receiver to add is Jaden Higgins of the Texans. A lot like Tyrod Taylor, I love the floor he's giving us off the waiver wire. Available in over 60% of leagues, by the way. We see 13 points. 1.4 points against Denver. It's Denver. And against Jacksonville, 15. Tennessee, 9.5. Buffalo, 13.8. Indianapolis, 11.5. That is an amazing floor off the waiver wire. There's not too many players you can get off the waiver wire that will offer you 10 points per week, especially if in Week 14, you got the 49ers on bye, you got the Giants on bye, Patriots on bye. This is a guy you can plug and play off the waiver wire into that wide receiver 2 or that flex spot, depending on who you're missing. The third wide receiver is Chris Godwin. Now, I recognize he's not available in 50% of leagues. That's the normal threshold I use as a waiver ad, but he is available in 44% of leagues, and with a player of this caliber, that's close enough. I had to call that out. The special note I have for Chris Godwin is that he only had 3 catches for 78 yards, but one of the incompletions he had bounced off his chest in the end zone. That would have been an additional catch for 1 point, touchdown for 6 points, and half a point for the yardage as well, making him an obvious ad, a must start in a lot of people's books in Week 14. I want to call it that incompletion because most people that did not watch the game, there's no real reason you would even know about that because maybe it shows up on a drop report if you're doing extreme research, but most people aren't going to that level. But I saw that by watching the game and want to call that out to you guys. That's one reason you need to add Godwin off the waiver wire. And if you don't want to watch every game and you want to subscribe to someone that does, hit that subscribe and that like and drop any questions you have down below in the comments. And let's get to our running back ad. Now, our running back ad for this video is Blake Corum. I will throw out 2 other quick names for you. Bam Knight, if Trey Benson does not return, and Chris Rodriguez, if you're looking for more of a starter level player. But Blake Corum is the only one here with league winning potential. The key here would be we do need a Kyren Williams injury. I hope that does not happen. I hope he stays healthy. But if an injury did happen, Blake Corum would absolutely be a league winner. And there's 2 reasons you may want to add him. Number 1, if you need some running back upside for the playoffs, if there was an injury in Week 14, you'd obviously not be able to get Blake Corum off the waiver wire yourself. There'd be too much competition. That's one reason to add him now. Number 2, if your opponent has Kyren Williams, not allowing them to replace him with Blake Corum if there was an injury is a huge win for you. At tight end, look no further than Evan Ingram. And I hear your question, why should I trust him now? That's definitely the number 1 question around this guy at this point because he started off down, then he was good, and then he was down, now he's good. Why trust him now? Well, 2 main reasons. Number 1, is health. He's dealt with injuries throughout the season, but coming out of the bye week, he looks fresh, ready to go, and healthy so they can finally use him the way they want to. And number two, also coming out of the bye week, that's the time where you can adjust your strategy, polish up the things that weren't really working as well, and they're finally using him as that joker. He will see enough target share for him to at least be startable for those of you that need a tight end off the waiver wire. Don't forget, I've got a great defense for you as well, but for kicker, you have to add Evan McPherson. Highly available, and last week, he was my number 2 kicker off the waiver wire, only behind Kamani Fairbairn, who plays in a dome. That's something I love for the fantasy playoffs, where you don't really need to worry about weather that much. But McPherson, with Joe Burrow, with this offensive potential, that's why I had him as a top ad last week. He ended up dropping 24 points, making 6 field goals, 2 extra points. He's got the leg to make the long field goals. He's got the accuracy to be trusted on a regular basis, and a solid schedule for the rest of the season, making him a top priority if you don't already have one of the top kickers in the league. And the Vikings are the new Titans, the team you want to be facing if you have a defense. We see the Commanders, they did well against the Giants, they did well against the Raiders. They've done well against some of the weaker teams they faced this season, and none weaker so far than they're facing the Vikings, who gave up 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, and a return touchdown to the Seattle defense, scoring 0 points. I know the Washington Commanders are not the Seahawks, but they are good enough to punish this Vikings team that does not really have a quarterback right now and absolutely struggling. That is No BS Fantasy Football, bringing you detail and advice that you don't see on any other page. Drop any questions you have down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the Fantasy Football Championship.